So today, we have all of Class 1A from My Hero Academia taking on Spider-Man. Who wins? Well, let's find out. So, before we get started, let me set some ground rules. Let me explain some things. So, I'm not putting Spider-Man against all 20 students of Class 1A at the same time. Not a 20v1. No. I'm putting him against all of them on one-on-one fights. We all know who Peter Parker is and how his powers and abilities, web crawling, web shooting, all that great stuff. We know how strong he is. We know how tough he is, how fast and agile he is, his spider sense, all that great stuff. But I'm going to talk about each of the students briefly and then see how they would do in a fight against Spider-Man. Some will be easy for him, others not so much, and there's one in particular that he can't beat. But we'll find out who they are. And starting us off at number 1, Mina Ashido. Quirk, she can secrete acid from her body for several purposes. She can use it to burn enemies or to burn through objects and stuff like that. Quote-unquote skate on it to increase her travel speed, and she can even coat herself in it for extra protection. She's also a very gifted athlete, being very good at dancing, acrobatics, and gymnastics and stuff like that. But Spider-Man should have no problem with her. He's a far better athlete, and he's dealt with far worse than acid before. Yeah, Spider-Man easily beats Mina. The next student from Class 1A is Minoru Mineta. Quirk, he has these ball things that continuously form on his head. He can throw these and they'll stick to anyone and anything, and apparently no one can break free once stuck by them. But he himself bounces off of them. I don't know why I've talked this long about him. Peter squashes him with ease. One hit, down on the ground. He's done so. Moving on to number 3. Spider-Man's first real challenge. Ijiro Kirishima. Quirk, hardening. He can harden his skin to increase his strength, but more importantly, his durability. This makes him a great sword and shield. His ultimate move actually makes him make his skin even harder, basically unbreakable, as that's what the move is called, unbreakable. He's someone who could actually take a few hits from Peter and be just fine. And if he could hit him, his hits could actually potentially even draw blood on Peter. He took several hits from that one very strong Shiha Saikai member and was unfazed by a massive zero-pointer robot falling on top of him. However, he's not fast enough to consistently hit Peter, and he's not like a very skilled fighter by any means. And if he does take too much damage, his skin will start to break. So this takes more effort on Peter's end, but Spider-Man should come out victorious over Kirishima. Number 4. Ochako Uraraka. Quirk, zero gravity. She can make anyone or anything she touches completely weightless, causing it to lose its gravity and float. The size and the number of objects plays a role in how hard she has to work to make them float, right? The bigger the object or the more things she makes float, the more physical strain it takes on her body to do so. She held like 3 tons of debris at one point, and even a small plane, and she can also make herself float, although she will get nauseous after some time. She also knows some martial art and defense techniques due to her time at Gunhead's agency. If she can touch Spider-Man, right, just hit all 5 fingers on him and activate her quirk, she could win. Just send him to outer space, basically. However, he is so much faster to the point it would be almost impossible. And even if she was able to, his webs and wall crawling would be a great counter for it. And then she just gets one-shotted by him easily. Spider-Man beats Uraraka. Number 5. Yugi Aoyama. Quirk, naval laser. He can shoot a laser beam from his belly button. It did easily destroy robots, and even through training he has made the blast even bigger. But doing so for a long amount of time, makes his belly hurt, and he's also not much of a fighter either. Kind of like Mineta, he is not a threat to Spider-Man, and Peter squashes him. Moving on to the next one. Number 6, Koji Kota. Quirk, and a voice. He can talk to and control any animal slash bug in the direct vicinity. He's controlled basically an army of bugs to beat President Mike during the final exams, and a horde of pigeons to surround Deku. He could potentially win depending on the animal's native to Japan, or wherever they're at in Japan. And according to Gaijin Pop blog, Japan does have smaller versions of the black and brown bear and a lot of venomous little buggers, right? I don't think, even if they were in the direct vicinity and he was able to control them, I don't think it's anything Peter couldn't handle. And Koda himself is not like a true fighter. Like, at least in close range, close quarters. Not much of a fighter. Yeah, he's going to get one-shotted. Number 7. Dinky Kaminari. Quirk electrification. He can project electricity. It's normally widespread and uncontrollable and hits everyone in the area. His ultimate move is called Indiscriminate Shock, 1.3 million volts. It does exactly what you think it does. He does have these pointer discs that he can shoot at his foes, and when he shoots an electric blast in any direction, the blast goes straight to the disc no matter what. So if someone has been hit with the disc, right, and it's stuck to them, they're going to get shocked. However, while it is a strong quirk, using it too much literally fries his brain temporarily. And he's already not the brightest guy in the room. Not to mention, Spider-Man has beaten Electro several times. Yeah, Dinky could actually be the first one to severely hurt Spider-Man. But like I said, it's nothing he hasn't fought before. And he should get the win over Kaminari. Probably one-shotting him, but maybe not. Maybe 2 shots. Who knows? Number 8. Suyu Aosui, or Sue. Quirk, frog. She has a lot of the characteristics and abilities that your typical frog does. She can jump quickly and far, cling to and crawl on walls, camouflage herself, regurgitate her stomach, secrete this non-lethal toxin, and elongate her tongue to unknown lengths for transportation and to grapple or restrain opponents. She even says ribbit. So, this one is interesting because she actually shares a lot of abilities that Spider-Man has. However, Sue is more built for restraining enemies and rescue, not for fighting. I love her, but she is not beating Spider-Man. He is significantly physically better across the board, and his webs are better than her tongue. So, I love her, but she's getting one-shotted as well. The camouflaging wouldn't work either due to his spider sense. Spider-Man one-shot Sue. Ribbit. Number 9. Tenya Ida. Quirk, engine. Through the exhaust pipes on his calves, he can run and move really fast, and he's just gotten faster since the start of the show. His main ultimate move is called Reciprocal Burst. He just runs at his enemies and kicks them over and over again, and he just keeps trying to kick them until he hits them, knocks them out. And with all that speed and momentum, he's packing quite the impact. His other ultimate move is Reciprocal Turbo. He basically puts his engines into high gear, making him several times faster than he already was. This only lasts for 10 minutes, and then his engine stalls, making him useless. But for 10 minutes, he's quote-unquote unstoppable. While he is fast, Spider-Man's spider sense has allowed him to dodge attacks moving at supersonic speeds, and Ida's not that fast. He might get a kick in, maybe 2, but once he gets a feel for Ida's speed, Ida's not landing another kick, and Spider-Man will put him down. Number 10. Momo Yaoyorozu. Quirk, creation. She can turn her lipids in her cells into any material she can think of, allowing her to spawn anything out of her body, more or less. She's created clothes, medical supplies, tools, shields, swords, bow staffs, several tons of TNT, and even legit cannons. Only thing is, she has to know what the material or chemical or whatever is in what she's making to make it, Not to mention, the more things she creates, or the bigger they are, the more lipids needed to make it in return requires more energy. But she is also very smart, like literally the top of her class, and a great strategist and leader. However, I don't think she's smarter than Peter Parker, and she just lacks the physicality to hang with Spider-Man. She could put up a good fight with like a shield or sword or whatever that she makes, but it's an interesting challenge for Peter, but it's nothing I don't think he can handle. Number 11. Kyoka Jiro, quirk earphone jack. She has a pair of earphone jacks hanging from her earlobes that she can extend to unknown lengths and can plug into any solid surface. Upon plugging in, she can accurately detect the softest of sounds and vibrations from several meters away, making her perfect for reconnaissance. Also, once plugged in, she can channel the sound of her heartbeat into violent vibration attacks. Her ultimate move depends on what she plugs into. Plugging into her amplifiers on her shins allows her to project a big sound wave called counterbalance. Plugging into the amplifiers on her wrist allows her to do the heartbeat surround, which is a close range sound wave blast that surrounds foes, and heartbeat wall. The same thing basically, but just like a wall of sound. And then there's heartbeat distortion. By plugging into the ground and projecting the sound waves through it, she can shatter the ground, wiping out any enemy and like in its path. As for chances go for Class 1A students in beating Spider-Man goes, I think Jiro has had the highest chances so far. Spider-Man won't be able to sneak up on her due to her earphone jacks, and her sound waves are great for keeping him away at a distance. Even if he does dodge the initial sound wave, it still sounds and vibrations. They go everywhere. Not that he can't take it, of course, because he definitely can, but it could still be a little disorienting. But if he gets in close, game over, and his web shooters are a great way to allow him to do that. Jiro could win, but it's just not likely. Number 12, Masharao Ojiro. Quirk, tail. He has a very strong and muscular tail that can be used for many things, like hitting something really hard, grappling and restraining foes, hanging onto things. You get it. He's also a very skilled martial artist, and he perfectly incorporates his tail into his fighting form. This allows him to excel in close quarters combat, and we do know Spider-Man has struggled and even been embarrassed by skilled fighters before, like Captain America and Iron Fist. However, Ojiro is nowhere near their level, right? And Peter, while the tail might throw him off a little bit, and he might get hit a few times by it, he should be able to win this relative ease. He is a very muscular man, Ojiro is, so I don't think he would be one-shotted. I think after 2 or 3 hits, he would be out cold. Number 13, Rakido Sato. Quirk, Sugar Rush. After eating 10 grams of sugar, his strength increases 5-fold for 3 minutes. For every 10 more grams of sugar he eats, it adds an extra 3 minutes to his time limit. However, the more times his body converts sugar into muscle, the more his cognitive functions decrease. Basically, he gets dumber the more sugar he eats. Basically, the more tired and dumber he becomes, right? He's already nowhere near as smart enough to beat Spider-Man, and even at his peak, he is still nowhere near as strong enough to fight Spider-Man either. Spider-Man wins this one too, but he'll take a few hits, just like Ojiro. He'll take a few more hits than Ojiro. Number 14, Mezzo Shoji. Quirk, Dupla Arms. He has a set of tentacles alongside his arms. The tips of these can be turned into other body parts like eyes, ears, and mouths, and fists as well. The duplicated body parts are far more efficient than the originals, making them perfect for reconnaissance and scouting, and he doesn't feel pain if they're attacked either. If they're damaged, I mean. He can also extend these and his arms to unknown distances. Octoblow allows him to throw a barrage of punches very quickly, and Octospansion morphs his arms into a giant fist to punch foes as well. And even his physicality is enhanced as well. The dude is superhumanly strong and durable. Shoji presents an interesting challenge for Spider-Man, but not a challenge he shouldn't be able to overcome. He's dealt with and beaten villains with similar abilities like Doc Ock and Venom, who are simply more dangerous than Shoji is. Yeah, Spider-Man will beat Shoji as well. Number 15, Toru Hagakure. Quirk, invisibility. She's invisible. all the time, 24/7. This makes her excellent at stealth. She can refract light that passes through her, intensifying the light into a blinding flash. She can also redirect light-based attacks as well, like Aoyama's naval laser. And she's even worked on honing in her stealth skills, making sure she's even more quiet. But while being invisible would make most people oblivious to your presence, as long as you're very good at stealth, Spider-Man's spider sense is a perfect for detecting her, and it's allowed him to dodge barrages of bullets with his eyes closed. Yeah, and she's just gonna get one-shotted. Not to mention, she has to be naked to be fully invisible as well. So yeah, she's just gonna get one-shotted. Number 16, Hanta Saro. Quirk, tape. He has tape dispenser things in his elbows, allowing him to shoot long cellophane tape-like strips, and he can retract them as well. These are great for transportation, restraining foes, and setting spiderweb-like traps. His quirk is a lot like Spider-Man's web shooters. However, he is not beating Spider-Man at his own game. Spider-Man is better at it, and he is still better in every other way. Yeah, Hanta Saro has no chance at beating Spider-Man. But now we're on to the last four, the final four, the real powerhouses of Class 1A. So let's see how Spider-Man fares against them. Number 17, Katsuki Bakugo. Quirk, explosions. I've used him before in videos. He can project explosions through the nitroglycerin in his sweat. He's made building-sized explosions, and these have staggered and some won't even hurt All Might and awakened Shigaraki. He can basically fly with these, and he's kept pace with Deku at 30%. He was even described as having lightning-fast reflexes. He withstood a beating from All Might and survived being stabbed by 3 or 4 of Shigaraki's tendrils too. His ultimate moves consist of AP shot, AP machine gun, stun grenade, and his most powerful, Howitzer's impact. But what really gives him a chance against Spider-Man is his combat prowess and skill in using his quirk in close range. Out of the Class 1A, Deku is really the only one that can match his combat prowess. He led his 1A team against 1B, doing 90+% of the work, and got an absolute flawless victory in just a couple of minutes. Something else is his sheer tenacity. This man does not give up, and he will win the way he wants to. Even after being impaled by Shigaraki's tendrils, he took a few minutes, and then got right back up and went on to continue fighting the near high-end Nomus. And while Peter is still physically better across the board to Bakugo, he's not as physically powerful as All Might, even while weakened and restrained. And he took All Might's beating like a champion and was never knocked out. Until the very end, anyways. Bakugo's biggest problem is actually landing a hit on Spider-Man. With his spider sense, even at close range, it's going to be difficult, but certainly not impossible. And even if he moves the hand or dodges his hand, it's an explosion, a fiery explosion. He could still get hit by the outside of it. Bakugo can win this, and in terms of percentage chances of winning as a prior to the rest of the class that's come before him in this video, he's definitely got the highest percentage so far. Man, I just think Spider-Man just barely comes out of this because of his experience and spider sense. Barely just wins it over Bakugo. Number 18, Fumikage Tokoyami. Quirk, Dark Shadow. He can manifest a sentient shadow monster that's connected to his chest. Its energy, personality, strength, defense, and Tokoyami's control over it all depends on the lack of light. During the day, he has complete control over it, but it's not as strong. But it's the exact opposite at night, where it becomes an unstoppable, rampaging force that he can't control. Spider-Man does not stand a chance at night. He just doesn't. But this fight will happen during the day. Dark Shadow can alter its size pretty significantly and can extend from his chest several dozens of meters. And outside of light, fire, and electricity-based foes, Dark Shadow seems to be a damn near perfect offense and defensive quirk/weapon. His ultimate moves consist of Black Abyss. He wears Dark Shadow-like armor to minimize his close-range weaknesses. Black Fallen Angel, Dark Shadow essentially carries him, allowing him to fly at great speeds. Ragnarok, Dark Shadow's power just greatly grows significantly. And Total Release. He charges Dark Shadow with several sources of darkness and then unleashes its full power. However, if Tokoyami is knocked out, then so is Dark Shadow. This is very difficult. But I think I'm actually going to side with Tokoyami. His biggest problem is actually hitting Spider-Man, right? But Dark Shadow is very strong and agile. And even if Spider-Man gets past it and hits him, he was fine after a large cave collapsed on top of him. So I'm positive he can take at least some of Spider-Man's hits, not to mention that's what Black Abyss is for. And then there's Ragnarok and Total Release. I just think Dark Shadow is just going to be a bit much for Spider-Man to handle. And it's not like Dark Shadow himself can feel pain unless it's like one of those light-based attacks too. So yeah, I'm siding with Tokoyami, just barely. Class 1A finally gets a win over Spider-Man. Number 19, Shoto Todoroki. Quirk, half hot, half cold. The left side of his body is fire, the right side is ice. He's made massive ice walls that's covered several city blocks and were taller than a stadium, and massive ice ramps, just the same size, and just a split second. Like he starts, boom, they're there. His fire has caused a forest fire, caused an inferno in an alleyway, and he's increased the temperature of his surroundings so much to the point Tetsu, who had trained his body in a burning furnace to increase his tolerance to extreme heat, nearly fainted from how hot it was. He can now even use both sides at the same time, which keeps him from freezing and overheating. He withstood several hits from Deku at 5%, Tetsu, Dabi, Grand Orca, and Bakugo's howitzer impact, an explosion that was significantly bigger than a stadium. He's reacted to faster opponents like Stain and Eraserhead, and dodged one of Ida's reciprocal bursts as well. His ultimate moves consist of Flash Fire Fist, which is just a big fire blast, Heaven Piercing Ice Wall, which is just a towering wall of ice the size of a skyscraper, and Flash Freeze Heat Wave, a massive blast powered by his ice and fire simultaneously. So, Todoroki is excellent at fighting at long range. His ice and his fire are perfect for that. He can fight up close too, but with Spider-Man's far greater strength and speed, it wouldn't be very wise. His fire is a great counter to Spider-Man's webs, but it's not like Peter hasn't dealt with fire before. If Peter can get in close, Todoroki's best bet is to do what he did against Tetsu to make Spider-Man back off. Just increase the heat, set him in a ring of fire, and just keep increasing the flames and the heat. But he risks overheating and fainting because he wouldn't be able to use his ice to cool himself down. That would be non-productive. Spider-Man would just come back in. And while Shoto did react to Stain and Eraser, neither of them are as fast as Spider-Man, or have a spider sense of sorts. But man, Shoto's ice barrages are just insane, and he can increase his heat so much, dude. I don't know. Shoto could definitely win. I'd say he has just as much as likelihood of winning as Bakugo did. And he would make Spider-Man work for it, for sure. But his lacking in close-range combat against stronger and faster opponents, I think is going to be his downfall here. However, like I said, the fire, I don't know, 50-50. They 50-50. And last but not least, Izuku Midoriya. This is the one student in Class 1A Spider-Man can't beat. With 45% mastery of One For All, he is definitely stronger and faster. And when using that in combination with his 6 other quirks, he's operating at a higher level than All Might ever did. At least that's what he said, and All Might didn't disagree with him. I mean, while weakened and exhausted, he still overpowered Dark Shadow's Ragnarok move and busted out of Todoroki's heaven-piercing Ice Wall move. And that's why he was on the brink of collapse from exhaustion. Imagine if he was like completely energized and rejuvenated and you know, at his peak. Imagine if he was to go beyond his limits to a higher percentage of his power. I mean, his 100% smashes have shattered Todoroki's ice barrages, sent Muscular flying with enough force to crater a mountain, wrecked Overhaul in his monstrous form, and did a ton of damage to All for One Shigaraki. And that's just his physical strength. He has 6 other quirks. Danger Sense is literally just like Spider Sense. Black Whip is just a better version of Spider-Man's webbing. He can basically fly with float. He has Fajin and Smokescreen. Bro, they're just added bonuses. He is stronger, he is faster, he's more versatile, and he's even better in tactical fighter than Peter as well. Spider-Man cannot beat Deku. So, in the end, Jiro and Uraraka could win, but it's not likely. Bakugo would put up a great fight and could potentially win as well. But I'd still side with Spider-Man over him. Todoroki literally 50-50s with him. Spider-Man could just web him up and win from the start, but then he has his fire in close range, his ice barrages. Who knows? And then I believe Tokiyomi would eventually beat Spider-Man, and Deku would definitely beat Spider-Man. So Spider-Man would beat at least 85 to 90% of the class 1A and 1v1s. I know this was a longer video, but I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, like and subscribe. Leave a comment of what you thought. Hit the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos and all the great stuff. I truly do appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.